Right, cool. We're now going to stream it on Facebook. So I'll let you on soon. Christof, great. Let's just do this. Just bear with me with the technicalities before we're live. There we are. Cool. There. Okay. So just bear with me, I'm just doing the going live, doing the copy for the show. Okay, cool. Right, so now we're live. Great, great, great. Just waiting for the stream. Okay, I think it's happening. Okay, we're live. Amazing. Really good. I'm Jenny Lyon, and this is the 5th show now of the Ascension live show. So today I have a really special treat for you guys. Somebody that I don't know personally, but who I have been following for a while, and I really like his vibe. I absolutely love the values that he stands for and his contribution to the Ascension process and his contribution to conscious families and conscious community, the values. So yes, I am very excited. So before I bring my very special guest on, we are going to do a little bit of housekeeping. So for those who are on Zoom, in the end of the show, I will just let people ask questions. So if there's questions popping up, please put them in the Q&A, or if the chat box, if that's easier. Chat box is fine. So just put your questions in the chat box as it comes up for you, because you may forget it later on. So yeah, just fire away with questions. I'll go through them in the end with my guest. Same thing on Facebook. Please put your questions in the comments box. I won't pay attention to the comments while we're in the show because I don't want to disrupt it. So again, I will go to those questions in the end. So please don't hold back, because we've got an expert online with us, and this is your perfect opportunity to ask questions. Okay, so no shyness, please. We like questions. Okay, so I am going to bring my very, very special guest with me now. Let's please with the technicalities. I'm going to make Christof a panelist. So we've got to make him allow to talk. So we've got Christof with us, and he will be joining now. And is it happening? Christof? There you are, great. Can you hear me okay? Ah, you're muted. Let me unmute you. Hang on. Hi, okay. Ah, he's got something else he needed to do. Let me see. I don't know what is that? Yes.
So hopefully you can hear me okay.
I can hear you.
It's just 6 a.m. here, so it's still dark outside, but I'm expecting light. I'm just going to open up my curtains here, so that when the light comes, I'm all
all the light is coming in.
Exactly.
I think exactly. On the opposite, I've had to draw my curtain. I haven't had to draw the curtains down, but I have, because my children are in the house, so I don't want to get distracted.
So, that's beautiful. How old are your beloved children?
Oh, so my daughter is 9 and my son is 4. So they are amazing little beacons. I love them.
Yes,
Of course.
you're great teachers, of course. Yeah, so yours are a bit further on the path than mine. Are 3.5 and 2. So I'm still kind of in the little beginning phases of little cooking humans.
Yes.
But it's very exciting, as you know, that every day is a brand new adventure. And as soon as that day is over, you tear up that story and you start again with a brand new one. you never know what's going to come, as you know. So
no, you have to repeat yourself a lot, but that's okay. That's like patience. So I'm really, really excited to have you on the show. And I know that we had a few things with the time. So it's 6 a.m. in New Zealand, and I'm so happy that you joined me at this time, because it's 5 p.m. here in the UK, which is a great time for kind of, zone out, chill out a little bit, maybe watch something. And also in America, people are getting out. So it's a great time to stream live. So I'm really pleased that you could make this time.
No problem.
So people know me. I'm Jenny Lyon. I am absolutely obsessed and passionate about Ascension and helping this planet towards light and the inhabitants, and whatever I can contribute. That's my my mission.
Beautiful. Thank you on behalf of the planet. Thank you for all your beautiful service work, and hearing that call and stepping up and feeling connected to making a difference and allowing your voice to be heard. It's very needed right now that people are exposed to cutting edge schools of thought, information, thought leaders. So well done for bringing people together in hearts and minds and making a difference.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I mean, this show last year, I was prompted or guided to just do it. So I just did. So I'm kind of just following. I have some people lined up. It's really exciting, and you were one of them that came, through. So it's great. So thank you.
Beautiful.
Brilliant. So now people may not know so much about you. So without maybe for a few minutes, just tell a little bit about yourself, because where you come from and what your mission is, really. So spend a few
minutes. Yeah, thank you, Jenny. So yes, it's a pleasure to be with you today. My name is Christof Melchizedek, and I'm also in service of the divine plan and follow along a beautiful journey of my guidance that I get from the source field, the source consciousness field, and it's taken me on quite a beautiful journey of exploring the truth. And quite often what you find isn't pretty, but I follow it wherever it goes. And this has stood me in good stead in my life, and created some beautiful adventures and occurrences along the way. But I'll tell you a little bit about my journey, how I got to be here, and what I'm doing currently today on the planet, and how I'm turning up with my family. So my journey, like many of you, started birthing into a family and kind of going, whoa, what the hell am I doing here? This is not like what I was expecting. So a little bit of a, discordant household. My father was a little bit, I guess, a drinker, and that explosions would explode over into life and our family unit. And so I just woke up a little bit with anxiety and worry and never really feeling safe, and all of those normal things that probably happen to many people around. But thought it was completely normal, and went on through my schooling, and was very passionate about kind of, sports and sports psychology in particular. That took me to college. I had my first kind of little peek under the cover when my mother got sick when I was about 13, and she had cancer, and I got to see the modern mainframe medical industry and all its kind of radiations and chemotherapies and surgeries. And so immediately kind of thought, when as a young 13-year-old, this was a bit weird that the treatments are worse than the disease. And but continued on my path, and I ended up with a physical education psychology degree. And my first thrust into the public arena was working with clients as a physical therapist and trainer. So my first throws were definitely in health and vitality. And over those years, I started to develop protocols that were getting great results with people. And as that career spanned into 10 and 15 years, began teaching many of these protocols in the health and vitality field, both at conferences and events, and also for trainers themselves at a lot of fitness conferences designed to teach trainers. And I must have taught in 50, 60 countries in the last pieces of that life. When I was going back, when I was about 25, I had my second glimpse of the modern medical world when my mother got sick again. And she, this time, passed away a few months later, saw a very quick deterioration. And then from my more adult self, I was able to take a look at more the whole vertical of the medical industry and or the sickness industry, really. And that was really a lens of my first level of awakening of some of the issues going on in society, and saw how the whole lens of how the same companies that then are owning the causational pathways of perhaps the pollutants in the food industry, i.e. the pesticide and spray companies, are the same companies who own the pharmaceutical companies, and saw the very full loop of the same organizations playing the same game of creating the things that make people sick and then creating the so-called solutions to all that. And then, so that was a real eye-opener. And but as I then fast forwarded again to my mid-30s, I knew that I didn't want to be continuing to be working with people just physically in my life. I knew there was something coded in my DNA. I was here for a bigger purpose than simply just health and vitality. Not saying simply health and vitality is a bad thing. It just wasn't my path. It was a stepping stone to my path, which I'm currently on today. And then it was evolving through, okay, health, vitality, well-being, detoxification, and more well-being strategies, and then mindset. Why is it I became obsessed with, why is it that I'm writing some people a protocol and one person will follow it no problem, but another person doesn't follow it at all? What is behind the scenes that makes people tick to find why some people are following a plan and other people are following a plan? And then, of course, if you've investigated human behavior and the science of human change at all, you begin to realize that the subconscious and unconscious minds are really the ones in charge. They are the ones where all the programs are sitting. So if you really want to make change, you have to be able to work on the level of the subconscious and unconscious. And then I began to find out about energy, information, and frequency. And through that, I had a series of kind of very interesting experiences when I started putting my hands on people and getting very non-local responses and having to find out the answers. And that drew me to investigating the quantum field, quantum physics, quantum mechanics. I ended up studying for 4 years and doing a deep dive in energy medicine. And so I dived deeply into the field of energy medicine and graduated from a wonderful teacher's school, Dr. Barbara Brennan, who used to be an ex-NASA scientist. She wrote a couple of great energy medicine textbooks. They are, I think,
they're very good.
Stalwarts on any seeker's bookshelf. Her books, and I was fortunate. And then when I graduated that, I went into shamanism, and that's when things really got funky, because I started to explore through 2 different lineages. The first lineage was working with the Bwiti tradition of Africa from Gabon with using the plant medicine iboga. And the second lineage was out of South America, working with a plant medicine ayahuasca through the Shipibo lineages. And through my own explorations and then holding space and facilitating ceremonies over the years, I must have done at least 150 odd ceremonies, plant medicine ceremonies with people facilitating. I began breaking through the lower realms of what I call the false light matrix, the overlay matrix, into the organic matrix. And I began streaming direct from source and began interfacing with a group of non-physical beings called the Guardian Alliance, who are a group of beings in service to others and are here supporting humanity's transition and the planet ascension, because we've had a lot of external interference on our planet and species, and these beings have been kind of sending broadcast signals for those people that can reach that with upgraded information. I began learning about the original human DNA genome before we were tampered with, and I began learning a lot of advanced bioregenesis technologies, both for the planet and for our individual species. And I began to reconnect my consciousness with who I was before I came to the planet. And then as I did that, my whole soul matrix began changing, and a new soul matrix began streaming through as to who I was before I came to the planet. And I reconnected fully into that. And since then, around 2014, I've been in service of the messages I've been receiving from the Guardian Alliance and from Source, taking a lot of groups and people on different adventures around the planet, doing a lot of energetic rewiring of our planet. And part of this has been involved in upgrading our planet's morphogenetic fields, morphogenetic grids, upgrading the geometry, upgrading the broadcast signal, and helping this new transition from the old hosting matrix that was hosting our planet to a new uncorrupted hosting system known as the Christic server or crystal star field of consciousness, which is the externalization of the Christ, which is now streaming to our planet. And part of my ongoing work is helping to anchor this into the grids and helping to transition people across off the old server of consciousness into the new one, which is has the uncorrupted templates and has the external broadcast of Christ consciousness that people can move their holograms into to be able to receive that illumination. So it's been a path of working both on the land as an architect and also with people as a navigator, helping them to navigate them into their sweet spots so they can turn up in the best way possible for their life and be of service. And so it's been a whole deep dive into consciousness, really, and the exploration of consciousness, both from the lens of personal, micro, and also macro.
So this is really interesting because I wanted to break down these different kind of experiences that you've had. So because we've got the individual, and then we also have the planet as a whole. So I was really interested. I mean, we've already started to talk about it, but the actual effects of what happens to the planet, really, not just the planet, but the inhabitants as such, because on a personal level, we've talked a lot in the previous shows about what happens on a personal level through Ascension. We have to clear a lot of our separation programs, etc., as a part of our, lifting our vibration and our energy and the subconscious and everything. So yes, so I find this really interesting. So I'd like to go a little bit deeper about the actual influx of light and what, because you're talking about going around on the planet and literally going to different places to do activations or changing the vibration there, or is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's part of your mission. So yeah, can you just explain, because some people may not even be aware of this, right? So just explain a little bit what that is, this influx of light, and what we can expect to see with the planet, and your mission in that, as just maybe go a little bit deeper or explain a little bit more about that.
Yes, absolutely. No, there's absolutely no problem with that. We can do that.
Yeah.
So so one of the things to recognize is that what the composition is of our entire time-space matrix, and how that is important to when we're looking to taking a planet through ascension, because essentially that's what some of us on the planet are here to do, to shepherd our planet into a ascension portal, and some of you at home may well be as well. So this particular matrix is made up of sound, which creates vibration, which creates light. This light goes on to create color, form, and geometry. And color, form, and geometry, sound, vibration, light are the programming parameters of this matrix. That is how things are manifested. When you see someone physically, or a picture, or a house, or anything that you're seeing me now, my physical form is held by a template in the sound and light fields, which then populates and creates the lower vibrating particles to be seen to be physical. But actually I'm not physical. I'm like a holographic projection of something that is held in the unmanifested realms of sound, vibration, light. So the first thing to recognize that there's that my system, my physical vessel, has a morphogenetic signature, a signature made up of sound, vibration, light, color, form, geometry that populates and creates my physical form. And my consciousness exists in those templates to create me. Now, as it is in the micro, so it is in the macro. I hold in my hologram, and you hold on your hologram, the entire universe. You know, all the planets, all the stars are held in your energetic architecture. You are literally a microcosm of the macrocosm, and it's a holographic nature, a holographic fractal nature, our universe. And so when we're looking and extrapolating this into a more planetary viewpoint, our planet goes through something known as a stellar activation cycle every 26,000 years, has that opportunity to go through a stellar activation cycle, say. And what's happening is that through this journey that our sun is making as it spirals through our galaxy, our sun isn't some fixed star that our planets are rotating around. Our sun is traveling very quickly, spiraling through the Milky Way galaxy, and our planets are spiraling behind it, following it. And it's as the sun's moving, it traverses around a great cycle around the Milky Way galaxy, and every 26,000 years it enters into a corridor of consciousness that is being streamed through the galactic center as a great photon band of light, of plasma. And as you can imagine, through any journey, there are some places, if you're driving your car, which are very pleasant and beautiful and vibrant and high vibration, such as the mountains of nature. And then there are other places that are very dense and heavy. And so it is as the sun travels through the galaxy. And right now we've just entered in 2012, December 21, we entered into, for the first time, full time in 26,000 years, this photon band where the wavelengths of energy that are coming into the planet are very, very fast. And as a consequence of our sun being in this particular location, the grand central sun sends its pulsations through to our sun, and the sun goes into these solar emissions, sending this plasma light into the planet. Now, when this happens, every 26,000 years, the planet spontaneously kicks into what's known as a stellar activation cycle. And what happens is that the planetary stargates, because we're living in a 12-dimensional matrix held together by three sound and light fields, pre-matter, dimensions 13, 14, and 15. And if you can visualize these dimensions of consciousness just as color wavelengths for now of magenta, pale gold, and aquiline, these particular frequencies, and then imagine them as pieces of rope, and then braid that rope together like a braiding that you're doing with this rope wrapping around itself in those three circles. So it's simultaneously one rope and simultaneously three ropes. That is source code. And source code is dimensions 15, 14, 13. Divine Father, Divine Mother, Divine Child. And Divine Father, Divine Mother allows the emergence of the Divine Child. Now, why this is important is because aeons and aeons of time ago, at the very beginning, was the first great fall. That fall was a separation from source consciousness. There was a great fall you may have heard of, and many of you may have heard of in the Bible and all these types of things from the great fall. And this was really in the higher realms where an enormous meta-consciousness field, known as Metatron consciousness field, separated its consciousness from source. And in doing so, it lost its eternal connection to life, i.e. source consciousness is eternal. But as this consciousness field separated, it recognized it no longer has an eternal life force. So it used its advanced understanding and understanding as this huge meta-consciousness field of advanced physics to engineer these reversal currents of not a tri-wave like sources, but a bi-wave. And it used this bi-wave like a Vesica Pisces harness to hack into other time-space matrices and to pull energy out of them so it could sustain its life. So first up, let me check with your understanding with me. You with me so far, Jenny?
Yeah. I'm following. I'm just kind of like, because this last bit that you just told me here is new information. I know about the 26-year thousand cycle, and I know about the plasma, and I know about those things. But this last bit, I didn't know about how these.
Well, I'm going to go back to the stargates because you probably don't know about those. So
No.
we're going to go into planetary ascension mechanics in a minute, but I have to give you the big picture, the red pill. I have to give you the red pill first. So this enormous consciousness field known as the Metatronic consciousness field, separated from source, hooked in. Now, there are countless numbers of time-space matrices going on. If you can just imagine like a tentacle of an energy going in, which we call the imposter spirit. And the imposter spirit has been the spirit that has created a lot of the challenges and difficulties on our planet with regards to control systems. So if anyone's in the process of waking up, you're probably aware of the banksters, the central bankers, the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, all these various control systems, religion, okay, the three main religions from the Abrahamic faith of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all based upon false father gods of domination and control, which has been the infiltration of this imposter spirit, which has then created through the various minions of different beings in different dimensions, the interferences happening on the planet that have created a lot of these elite groups who have been in this satanic ritual communication with, I guess, these beings who have been infiltrated by this imposter spirit, and in creating this huge kind of large artificial or false light matrix. And the false light matrix keeps people kind of capped at a certain level, and keeps planet capped at a certain level of consciousness, because it's allowed us artificial network of energy that creates this discordance. When humans are in discordant energy or are sending thought-directed prayer to this false father god, this false god, this energy gets sent up and siphoned out of the planet, siphoned out of the grids, out of the entire time-space matrix. So this entire meta-consciousness field can siphon that energy and continue to sustain itself. It very simply sees humans as a food source, as an energetic source of its life force. And so all these reversals, these biwaves geometries, which has gone on to create the flower of life, which has been, a beautiful geometry still, but it has created a closed cap energy system. It's a closed loop architecture. The Fibonacci spiral has no relationship with its center. So therefore it creates birth and death cycles. And this has been the underpinning geometry of the previous eon of time we have come out of, which has been the aeon of time of the patriarchy. So this last 26,000 years has been the aeon of the masculine consciousness. The 26,000 year cycle before that was the aeon of the matriarchy. So we were more in the Lemurian epoch of time where the matriarchy ruled, and they saw men as little more than a seed needed to procreate, and the masculine was subservient. Then the masculine petitioned to the Godhead to come back into equality, and how you do that, then the masculine has a turn of being kind of more in the ascendant, I guess. And we've just come out of that eon of time, because that really hasn't worked great either. Created a big mess of hierarchy and control. And so these beings who are in service to self on the planet, these elite groups which are controlling governments and controlling banking and controlling all of this, are simply minions of a larger energy consciousness field which is separated from source and has been needing to siphon energy out of the planet to be able to sustain its life force. Has created these various energetic insertions into the planetary grids, creating morphogenic fields. Now, what's a morphogenic field? The morphogenic field is a sound and light field of energy which feeds consciousness into whoever's living upon it, which of course we all are as the human species, and we are drawing our consciousness from that consciousness field. And in combination with that, they inserted various energetic implants into our DNA architecture, which capped our consciousness, meaning that we didn't truly fulfill historically our true potential as the original seeding of our DNA, which allowed us to be have what's known as a diamond sun DNA, angelic diamond sun DNA template, which our original design was for us to have 12 energetic strands active and open, so that we could access, all 12 dimensions of consciousness and create all of that light into our field and expand our consciousness enormously. Our original design was for biological ascension, meaning we could hold 12 dimensions of consciousness while in physical form. However, 5,000 years ago, we had an invasion from a group of beings who were, infiltrated by the imposter spirit, which was hosting their consciousness into our planet, and to essentially hijack many of our energetic architectures, including our own consciousness, so that they could control what was going on the planet. And since that timeline, in the Egyptian Sumerian timeline, our species has been infiltrated by various intruder races that have been kind of controlling the planetary resources and the key elite groups on the planet with the information and direction to basically control our planet and make it a slave planet, which is essentially what we have been growing up in and evolving in. Now, what's been happening since then is that this particular eon of time that we have moved into, this particular golden eon of time, the last round of that 26,000 years ago, our planetary stargates didn't get the full opportunity to open fully to begin accreting light. Now, there's three parts to a planetary stargate. There's the stargate itself, the planetary arc of the covenant in a different location, and the Q site, or the activation site. And when a stargate spontaneously opens, and they've been spontaneously open since 2000, and they will continue to be there since 2022, when these stargates pop open, they can begin to accrete the plasma frequency coming into the planet to raise the planetary morphogenic fields with this more plasma energy.
And
2000.
Yeah,
sorry.
No, I just want to ask about the stargates. So just, are they on specific locations of the planet, or is it more just of like coming in towards, towards the planet, or is it specific?
Yes, great question. They are very specific locations on the planet.
And you would only detect it through channeling, knowing, or
well, yes. I mean, people who are coded to know. For example, the elite groups all know because they build stuff there.
Yes.
But most people have no idea about what a stargate actually is. I designed some charts so I can bring these stargates up with some diagrams. People might.
So they are like portals, right?
Well, they are key portals for our planetary ascension, and part of what my mission has been is to go and reactivate these, because many of these have been in negative agenda control, which yeah, exactly. Over time, these have been capped. So let me share and just quickly go through some of the.
I love sharing. We like diagrams. Show us.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. So this is the first stargate, which works from Haley, Air Island in Cyprus, and it has that kind of tone and chi, and connects with the universe and galactic stargates, Theta, Orion, and Mercury. Each stargate. This is why our planet is so sought after by many races and beings and intruder groups, because we have these stargate systems which are portals into other galaxies. You can literally travel very quickly through these portals in and out into different locations, just like that TV series Stargate.
Can I just ask you, I don't know if this is a naive question, because I wouldn't actually know. The Bermuda Triangle.
Yes.
Is that a stargate?
Well, the Bermuda Triangle is kind of an old Atlantean crystal generator. It actually holds a pyramid underneath the water there that is 3 times the size of Cheops. And that was the pyramid that blew its grids, when Atlantis fell, and created a lot of the cataclysms that happened as a consequence. So when that kind of crystal generator blew, we saw a lot of disruption and a rip tear in the fabric of the morphogenic fields, which creates this funky kind of energy going on in the Bermuda region. Mm-hmm. Okay, so kind of partly.
It's just popped up. I'm thinking, because I don't know. I know about that Atlantean. It's about the the Atlantis, but I didn't really know about if there was a Stargate there or not. So
yeah. So just flicking through this, the original seeding of humanity was that the first few tribes of humanity was each coded in their DNA to be able to access and open the stargates. First thing that you're going to notice.
Can I hear you? Oh, I got closer. Oh. Okay. You might have to see if I have lost it. Christof. Maybe he has to leave the show. Let's see what happens here. I'm going to message Christof. Oh, there you are. I can hear you now. There. Oh, he has. Okay. Great. You're back. I think the connection was lost for a minute. Okay, cool. So,
no worries. And so we're just going through some of these stargates here to give people a bit of a visual representation of how all these are feeding in together. And what's been happening is that, you know, our planet has had this opportunity. You can see this one connects to Arcturus. Next one connects to the Orion system and the different stars within our galaxy. And you can start to see how there's a lot of interest in many of these places. And of course, if those of you that are doing research in Antarctica, well, there's whole alien cities down in Antarctica that are uses portals in and out of that. And you can check, you know, the Middle East. This 10th Stargate is where the Anunnaki came in through, because our 10th dimensional beings are very interested in the 10th dimensional Stargate. And so, you know, there's been a lot of issues and a lot of the wars that have been playing out. The whole Second World War was basically just this higher, you know, intruder race agendas playing off against each other. And so why I'm sharing this is just to share that there's, during a planetary ascension process, there's this kind of activation of these stargates. Now, 2013, something very interesting happened in that the planetary Stargate network was also supported by an amazing activation in the planetary Earth grids that no one was really expecting. Whereas a Nomi particle activated, and these giant crystalline cathedrals, plasma cathedrals, began opening in the etheric planes. Giant mountain-sized cathedral networks held in 5 locations. Sacred Valley, Peru, Giza Plateau, Egypt, Bali, Indonesia, Sarasota, Florida, and Oslo, Norway. And each of these massive crystal cathedral networks had 5 sub-giant mountain-sized crystal cathedrals in these areas that began also emitting plasma. And I've been going to some of these locations and doing activations there to help to increase the plasma flow, take them up to 100%. It's possible I might do another one this year in Norway. I haven't done Norway yet. And when this happened, this guaranteed our planet's ascension. So that's the first thing that everyone should be very happy about, that our planet was in a phantom matrix being sucked down into a black hole. We were spiraling downwards. And the activation of this created almost like an antivirus, if you like, to allow enough frequency to come in. So what we have as plasma is the fastest wavelength of light, vibrating particles that exist that we know about. And this is now, you know, both being emerged from the inside of our planet and is being accreted from the stargates coming in. So we've got this double hit of plasma. Now what's happening is that the dense compacted energy that is held at a very low vibration on our planet is being hit with this faster plasma. And whenever a faster wavelength hits a lower wavelength, the lower wavelength begins transmuting and starts to move up an oscillation rate. And these faster oscillations are what our planet's going through, which is some of the shaking off that's kind of happening, so that the oscillation and frequency on the morphogenetic grids is happening and getting faster. Now, 2017 saw something very significant happen, also known as the particle convergence. And this is when all dimensions 1 through 12 coalesced and aligned themselves up perfectly in a 3-day window that we called the particle convergence. we took a group to Egypt at that time, and we were actually in the King's Chamber, performing a ritual in the King's Chamber to help this frequency and to anchor in a new geometry into the earth grids. And that saw the arcing of consciousness move from 60-degree shifts on our planet to 45-degree shifts, which moved on our whole new geometry from the flower of life to the crystal spiral. And the crystal spiral geometry is the geometry for our next eon of time, the golden eon of time we're entering into. And the mathematical structure of this geometry connects it directly in with source. The mathematics mean that the nature of the crystal spiral has a direct connection to source. And so what's happening now is that the morphogenic fields and the grid work has changed into a new broadcast signal. And we also have this new external broadcast of this consciousness field of the tri-wave coming into our planet. This tri-wave, which is, remember what I said before, is source code, is now starting to be broadcast back into the planet. And many grid workers like myself are going around with groups and begin planting in the source code back into the earth grids to override the biwaves, which has been this kind of imposter spirits hooks or tentacles into our earth to send reversal currents up and out of the planet so it can continue to sustain its life. And what we're seeing now is source begin to be reintegrating, reweaved through the morphogenic fields and grids into our planet, so that these new morphogenic fields and grids will send this new consciousness up into the species. And so within quite a short period of time, maybe 2, 3 generations, 4 generations, as these new babies are born on these kind of earth grids, they're going to have a whole new consciousness as a consequence. Already you can see the difference in the children being born today compared to the children being born 10 or 20 years ago. They have a whole new different energetic signature and speed of processing. They're more crystalline. They're more kind of aware in their heart. And when you're talking about evolution, you know, well, 3, 4 generations is completely tiny. It's like a blink of an eye. And so those of us in adult life now are part of the changeover team. We've come here to light the way for these children and to open the pathways to allow them to be able to take our planet back from the control and tyranny that it currently is. Many of us are in that process of bringing liberation and bringing, you know, sovereignty to our lives and to the lives of others by working with the light fields to override some of these control systems that are still influencing our planet. And that's all going to accelerate now because the new morphogenic fields of information in the grids that are creating a new geometry, a new form holding blueprint to allow us all to rise as this frequency continues to rise.
So a question, so the critical like the critical time of where these other types of consciousness, you know, controlling the planet, the critical time is over. Is that what you're saying, in a sense? Because there's enough grid workers and other light workers linking into the new level of consciousness, so that the planet actually has kind of done a U-turn. You know, I'm just trying to keep, you know, simple English. But yeah,
from the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay. But there's still a lot of work to be done, right? Because what's happening is that, you know, these groups are going to be stopping at nothing in order to keep, you know, they're in control and they don't want to let go, right? And that, I'm talking about not just the physical humans of the elite groups, but actually more the actual beings behind it. Because what's being set up now is the final throw of the dice, so to speak, which is the integration of 5G network and the broadcasting signal with the satellites they're setting up to broadcast this 5G network, which is very damaging for both human DNA and human health. But also they can use the 5G network in combination with blockchain to create a completely surveilled state where every little piece of our life is managed within a parameter. The only way to move past your consciousness is to expand your consciousness and raise your vibration enough where 5G won't influence you. You need to move beyond the signal of 5G. So, you know, there's a big play out in game and a massive game of chess, the ultimate Game of Thrones, so to speak, by various groups trying to, you know, maintain control because they're in service to self. But the path of the Christed energy is in service to others. and you know what was happening over time. If we start to look at a generational lifespan going on, is that yes, this game is over. The anchoring of the architecture into the planet and the morphogenic fields is raising the frequency enough. More and more people are waking up. You know, nothing is more powerful than a group of beings who are demanding sovereignty away from tyranny. You know, and so we're really in this kind of incredible process at the moment of reclaiming both our own life through expanding our consciousness, raising our vibration, being in alignment with the divine plan, following our call of our purpose, our spiritual purpose, aligning our lives fully with that, so that we can be a big part of this new stream of consciousness that's coming through, to shift, to move out of the false matrix, which, you know, is there and is going to be amplified when all this other technology hits, into this more organic matrix, to move past the program into the true source that is there available for us, past the white light, which many new ages and light workers get trapped in, the white light, and to move into the organic light, which is available for us.
So, yeah. So I'm very interested in how the viewers, because I like these questions to see. So from a viewer's point of view now, because a lot of this information, I've heard of all of it, but most people wouldn't know about all of this. On an individual level, if you could give a piece of advice right now, what would that be? Whether you have a family or you don't, and whether you're sick or if you're not sick, whether you have a relationship or not, what is a good advice in this?
Yeah, well, it's very simple. Okay, it's very, very simple. Raise your vibration. Okay, and follow that thread, and be ruthless on how you're looking at yourself. Okay, first up, what addictions do you have? Okay, are you drinking alcohol? Are you smoking cigarettes? Are you in any of this type of thing? First up, look into this. Then, you know, if you want to be really serious about your about your growth, because what we are talking about is your consciousness, which is being influenced by external forces that can be influenced. We want to be sovereign is the first thing. So chances are, if there's an addiction, there's another energy that is harnessing that discordant frequency that you host when you move into that. So we have to be, you know, mindful of our field and our vibration. So follow the path of the activities and processes and techniques and tools that are going to raise your vibration, expand your consciousness. Because when you start to vibrate at a higher oscillation, many things begin to fall away, including the quality of your life massively amplifies and everything increases. So if people are wondering, well, how can I go about doing that? Well, the simplest piece of advice is that many people, many light workers, forget about their physical bodies. You know, so
I know. I have to tell so many about it.
Yeah, the most important thing is to detox your physical vessel, clean up your nutrition, go on a raw food cleanse for 3 weeks. My greatest way of raising vibration is this: 3 weeks, 1 week raw food only, 1 week raw smoothies only, 1 week raw juices only. If you do that and combine that with saunas, steams, and salt baths, your vibration will never be as high. But you're going to really face yourself with all sorts of kind of internal programs of addiction to food, emotional eating, and all these types of things. You're going to be quite surprised what this brings up. But at the end of that 3 weeks, you'll never know your body better than what you will. You'll know exactly what's going to work for it and what's going to not. And you'll never have more energy, I promise you. After a week of juicing, you won't have more energy and vitality and clarity in your whole life. So, you know, you need to get serious at some point. You need to really step up and to really play full out, because the benefit of doing so is that every area of your life improves. Because what happens is that your oscillation is at a higher frequency set point. So because of the law of attraction, which you're no doubt aware of, you start attracting a much higher quality person, event, and person and timeline and event. Everything you hold as in a field of intention, you track something that's a much higher quality. So if I were to say to you, oh, that project that you're working on and you haven't quite got to the level that you want, What if I could guarantee that everything would improve and go up to a much higher octave? You'd get that money that you're looking for to invest. You'd find the right people to come into the project. All of those things would happen, but all you have to do is raise your vibration by going on a 3-week cleanse with raw food. You know, would you do it at home? Would you consider doing that at home if you knew all those things were there for you? You got to be prepared to pay the price at some point.
Yeah, no, that's a really good practical advice as well, because I think when people listen and they think, yes, I want to do this, you know, they want to raise the vibration, their mind and their heart is saying, yes, I want to do this. I think to start with a detox is a practical pursuit, and that can happen. You can make it happen. You can go to the shop and get it. You can make the commitment, get the recipes done. So that's a really good practical advice. Now, with with that, I would probably say that if somebody hasn't done that before, it will bring up a lot of emotions. Because when we when we detox our body, it also comes with all the, you know, the rubbish that of thoughts, maybe, you know, the unconscious, the subconscious. So what's your advice there? How to go about it?
Well, how you know, life works is like this. If you really want to progress, there are 2 or 3 things you have to be aware of. The first one, you have to have a belief that you are the cause of all of your reality. Okay? You're the creator of everything, even seemingly something that just randomly happens to you. There's a causation to that effect that you set in motion through your bioenergy field, your consciousness, and your DNA. The way that those are moving, operating together, are creating, shaping your reality. You are like this movie projector projecting out your reality. Your DNA is like the film in that movie projector, and your consciousness is like the light, and your bioenergy field is like the lens. So anything that's come to you that is like a trigger, when you get irritated or upset or frustrated or angry because someone says or does something, you literally created that because you're creating your reality. So what the path of spiritual growth is to reverse engineer your irritations and upsets. So when you get triggered by someone, you examine the trigger. Once you move out of the initial emotional reaction, you reverse engineer back that trigger to all the way to the root cause of the wounding. So how this works is that you feel irritated by someone because they've done something that frustrates you or irritates you. You examine the thoughts and the feelings that you're experiencing, and then underneath that, there's going to be some sort of belief that you have created that has attracted all of that. Underneath the belief, there's an unmet need that was set up in your field, probably when you're very young, in the relationships and your family dynamic. Most of the work I'm doing with clearings and activations on people goes back to the childhood. Those early years of life, you're literally like someone's pushed record on a hard drive and has recorded every single interaction that happens with you, your parents, the society, the culture. So just think about those first 7 years of your life, how harmonious or disharmonious it was. And literally those programs that your parents created for you, you're mostly likely still running some of them as program scripts. And so underneath the unmet need is a wound. And these unmet needs usually are linked to the development of the chakras, which are the processing portals of frequency that come in where the frequency and physiology coalesce and interact. So we end up with these faulty kind of ways that our chakras are operating according to what's going on and around us, so that we have a wounding that then our consciousness covers over and scabs and kind of holds a little part of pain and separation and isolation. A little part of our soul essence gets fractured off. And around that, our human consciousness system in the unconscious realms starts to create these defense mechanisms, lower self, wall, mask, ego, these energetic ways of responding, so that anytime a like vibration that is similar to this, what caused this wounding when you're a child, shows up in your life, these defenses kick off. And you go analogical, which means beyond time. You go back to the consciousness of the 5-year-old child and react in a way that protects the wound, to push this energy away from this wounding. And so often when we're doing that, we are projecting onto someone something that has been set in motion when we were a child, and we're operating from that child consciousness to protect that wounding. And so the gift of the reaction is to reverse engineer it all the way back to the wound, find the wound, uncover it, heal it, open it up, and allow that healing to take place so you can become more whole again. And you move from having all these pieces of your consciousness fragmented and scattered around the place, all put back together again, and you come into more wholeness, and you move from puzzle to picture. And that is the path of spiritual growth and raising your vibration, observing your responses and reactions, reverse engineering them all the way back to the wound and healing the wounds, and then becoming more whole.
Yes. And that's why it's so important that we, as it comes to the surface, we address it. I mean, that's a very good way of just checking out your energy. If something comes up and upsets you, address it. And then as the layers come up, because it's infinite, right? It's going to always something that's going to
keep going. Up. And it's never the other person. When you point the finger at someone, there's three pointing right back at you. So it's about taking personal responsibility. And then people say, well, what about these seemingly random events that happen, like an accident? Well, you know, every effect has its precipitating cause. It may be held in your ancestral lines, i.e. 5 generations back, there could be some unresolved karma that you need to work through as part of your family constellation. It could be a quantum life, a past life that you've experienced where you have broken natural law, and there's a karmic consequence to that action that's catching up with you in this lifetime. Because remember, our soul has been overlighting many, many different physical vessels over time, and our soul has been creating holographic records of all our thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and behaviors that have not been in alignment with natural law, creating a karmic consequence, meaning that we have to pay the bill at some point. We have to pay the price of those behaviors.
Well, this is the time of times, right? So this is a great opportunity to be alive, because actually we can address freely without being hanged, warped, or, you know, killed for you know, expressing our feelings and healing ourselves. We can do it easily now. I mean, this
and the energy that is coming through is so fast. It means that you can go many lifetimes worth in one lifetime. You can go many lifetimes within even a couple of years now, such as the speed of which everything is happening, you know, and the people I'm working with today compared to what I was doing 10 years ago, I mean, it's night and day how quickly someone can move. You just have to be committed, because when you're committed, you can find great spiritual guides and people who can support you with spiritual direction. You know, you often need guidance in that direction, but you know, you have to be focused, you have to hold the focus, and you have to have the dedication. And if you can bring those two elements to the game, you know, there'll be someone out there who you resonate with that can guide you and support you into these transitions to make these adjustments in your life so that all elements of your life begin improving. It's very exciting, the time we are living in.
It is really exciting. I mean, I've been doing healing for the last, well, I've been a therapist and a practitioner since 2001. But I mean, just the last 3-4 years, removing something from someone's life, I mean, you can stack up the whole of the line of the, you know, if there's an ancestral line or if there's a specific issue, and it can be stacked up and it's gone. So, I mean, it's so fast. It's incredible. It's so fast at the moment. I'm quite, you know, stunned myself sometimes what can be done in such a short space of time. So it's very encouraging. It's very efficient at the moment. I mean, I'm even
very efficient.
I've got, it's like they're becoming even more lasered and efficient. So it's really great. So if you're thinking about it, if you're watching this and you're thinking about clearing your life up, it's a great time to do it. Okay, so I'm just conscious of time. I wanted to see if there was. Are you all right for time, Christof?
I'm all right. I'm okay for time. All my children are still asleep.
Okay, oh great. They're still sleeping at 7. That's great. So I just wanted to have a little, maybe sort of 5 minutes on because we could touch on the children of the new earth and these children coming in. I'm very passionate about bringing up conscious children or conscious family myself. So this is just my passion, it's close to my heart. So if you can just talk a little about how important it is as parents that we address our own wounds and our own programming and our own path so that we can help the children. Just a little bit on that before we do questions.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the most important things I feel is a path I learned through Boise called honoring your parents. And honoring your parents means bettering your genes. That's how you honor your parents. You better your genes. And of course, what happens that as our children get born, they grow up in the field of energy that is between you and your partner, and all of the lineages that came before you. The mother's parents, the father's parents, and their parents, all those ancestrals are stacking kind of back energetically. So creating a nice, clean, loving field of energy. And the biggest advice, I mean, I can give on a practical level is probably attachment parenting, is kind of the emotional connection with your child. And the first few years of life are the key to that. If you want to influence children when they become teenagers, you have to really be there for them in those early years of life, because then you're developing this emotional bonding, allowing their emotions to well up if they need. It's okay for them to cry. Don't cut off their crying, because it ends up shutting down the second chakra and processing their feelings. So allow the waves to come, allow them to be safe to express their emotions, allow this conscious loving connection. We still sleep with our children. They're 3.5 and 2. You know, we held them on our bodies as much as we could when they were babies, and we nurtured them, we cuddled them. We really create that loving container as much as possible and encourage the exploration of experimentation. And so the biggest thing is just this unconditional love. It's holding and connecting and creating a very deep emotional bond with your children, because if you want to be in a place of having them want to listen to you, you know, they're not going to listen to you if you if you've been emotionally disconnected, or you haven't really been present in their life. So the biggest investment that you can make to set your children up to be successful in the future is that deep emotional connection, which means being really present with them when it's time to be present with them, and not just giving them the iPad or the iPhone because it's a good way of managing their behavior. Okay, it's about spending this quality time with them and really engaging in the whole process, because, you know, as you know, it goes by so fast, and my goodness, and you want to savor these beautiful moments of these dear children who are here and as being malleable. And just remember, the first 7 years is when all their energy centers are open. They are just recording everything that's going on in your household. And it is never what you say that's important. It's always what you do. Always by example. Example only is how things work. And I want to just share with you the kind of the archetypes that each parent brings. The mother holds the archetype of foundation, providing the good foundations for life. Stability holds the stability archetype, identity and nurturance. They are the archetypes that mother holds. Okay, foundation, stability, identity, and nurturing. Father holds the archetypes of goals and objectives, focus, direction, and achievement. And together, that's the archetypes that parents hold, that the children are brought up into. And so we each hold this beautiful energy signature that together in our relationship, we are providing the examples of how relating men and women relate. Now, you'll be aware, as I am, and I see this in my clients, that the repeating patterns of relationship discordance that happens are the repeating patterns of what their parents went through. How they end up in relationship in their adult life is a direct reflection of what their relationship was like with their parents. Any father issues get shown up in the attractive field. They end up having an attractive field for attracting the discordant behaviors of the father, and same with the mother. So you better clean up your stuff, because you're going to end up creating the likelihood of the type of person that your child is going to attract in adulthood. And let's face it, I would say 80% of the happiness in your life comes about from being in the right harmonic relationship. When your relationship's in harmony, well, that's a beautiful, loving space. The problem is because most people are still stuck, trapped in the consciousness of what their parents programmed them to be in this kind of discordance. And so they end up operating in like 2 10-year-olds are in relationship with each other. So if you don't do the work, you know, you're going to pass that on to your children. So that's the motivation.
I want to mention this because this is from my personal experience as well, that if there's ever been any issues with my children, if I go and have a clearing session, they're fine. Like pretty much they're fine, or my husband. So it's like magic. I mean, I can go and have a clearing session and clear up whatever. I might not even, in my conscious mind, I might not even think there is anything wrong, but I always do this. If I'm thinking there is an issue here, I have a clearing session, they're fine. So
I mean, it just goes to show we are portals into our children. You know, they're literally reflecting back to us what's going on inside of us. They are literally genetic extensions of us. So it goes to reason that anything that we're going through, they're going through. And you know, the best advice I can give is to become more energetically intelligent as parents, because, you know, the amount of times we have to do clearings for our kids after being out in groups of energy, you know, festivals or schools, you know, there's all sorts of lurking energies. And sometimes, you know, some children have all their centers open and just process everyone else's emotions. You know, the more that you can become more, you know, sensitively aware, certainly they can pick up auric attachments, you know, other entities playing out through your children's hologram. Your child turns a bit crazy for a while, to recognize it might not be them. It might be a host that's using their energy field that they picked up from somewhere. So, you know, as you become more energetically aware, you can begin to navigate and manage. The amount of times we've had to do clearings for the kids based on auric attachments is amazing. And we often say to ourselves, how do normal parents like cope with this? You just think your child's turned a bit crazy for a while.
I do the same, Christof. I notice if they're out, if they're off, and I'm like, that's not them. And I'll just do a clearing on them. When they're sleeping, or if they just sit with me, I'll just do it. I command it, and it's gone, and they're fine again. So it's obviously a difference between them playing up because I'm not okay, but you know, I've noticed this.
That's right. You have to be aware. What's my stuff? What's their stuff? What's external energy stuff? I mean, it's a complex kind of thing. It's not just, you know, trying to manage good behaviors. You're trying to manage energetic environments. That's another part of it.
So of course. So okay. So I'm going to try see if there's any questions, because I don't want to run over too long. Let's see.
I think you sent me some questions through, didn't you? Let me just have a quick scan here.
Yeah, but I'm thinking questions from the viewers, because there may be some questions on the chat. So cool. Zoom members, people on Zoom, please feel free to fire away. There is no questions at the moment, I don't think. Let me have a look. No, there's no questions there. I'm going to look in the Facebook profile to see if there is any questions. Let me see. Okay. Sometimes there isn't.
So we answered most of your questions, actually. There's one there upon the weather that might be an interesting one to talk about while you're drawing out other questions.
Let me just see if there's a question from the actual viewers to us.
Okay. And while you're doing that, I'll answer the quick weather question.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got some interesting weather that's coming up, but we are going to be heading into, we are entering a grand solar minimum, which means that the sun for a period of time is not as intense. So we're probably going to go into a mini ice age. We've already seen kind of the starting point of that in North America, where it had the crazy weather. So it is going to get colder. This whole global warming thing was a complete myth and a manufactured, engineered thing that kind of, you know, brought together a lot of different nonsense. But we are entering into an extended period of colder weather, especially colder winters. The weather is going to be a lot more brutal.
So what about the seasons, where there's seasons, like in Europe where we are, in UK? I'm Swedish. Well, very seasonal there. So what's happening with that?
Well, much more brutal winters. You know, like immensely cold, like, you know, ice sheets. You know, and you know, in the Scandinavian countries, the whole thing will be ice.
Yeah.
And then as the summer's much shorter and not as intense heat. Basically, just all the things that you can imagine will happen when the sun's not as intense. It's very natural for suns to cycle between warmer periods of time and cooler periods of time. And we're just entering into a period of time where a grand solar minimum, where we're entering into a cooler period.
Cool. What about around the equator? Because obviously around the equator, we have.
Exactly. So it's not going to be as intense. So it's going to be, much easier around the equator. The more extended you go to the north and more to the south, it's going to be very different. So, for example, around about the 45th degree parallel above, it starts to become a bit more difficult to grow food. And as you get down lower, it becomes easier, just because, the closer you are to the equator, the warmer it is, obviously. So, Spain is probably going to be nicer to live than Norway, for example.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because I'm thinking, there has been times the last few years where we experienced really warm summers in the UK and pretty cold winters, I'd say. So they've become a little bit more extreme in their own. But you're saying that actually then it's not going to be so hot in the summers. It's more gonna
probably. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, we're only just on the cusp of it. It's going to really. You saw the first wave of it happen a little bit this year in North America. Remember, they had that kind of icy polar kind of snap, negative 30 degrees. So next, just keep an eye out of this next winter, for example.
Yes.
Look at the winter 2020. And kind of, tune into what's going on. I do believe that Europe had quite a lot of snow all around the place as well.
Yes.
But, we're going to see a lot of snow as it starts to build up in the winters. And so 2020 we'll probably see a bit more of that.
Yeah, okay. Well.
Okay, any other questions?
I don't think there was any more questions. There wasn't any more questions from me. Yes, there is one more. The last one. I like this one. So, if the whole world are listening right now, every single person, what would you like to say in one sentence or two?
Wake up and raise your vibration would be my sentence. Simply.
Yeah, wake up and raise your vibration. Cool.
So simple is beautiful. I mean, I would like to add that. What is one thing that I would like the world to listen to and actually implement? Wake up and raise your vibration would be it, because within a more expanded consciousness, you see through the source issue to the problems. Everything on our planet can be solved with a wider and bigger, more expanded consciousness. You just simply can't hurt another being when you wake up to the reality of the loving, benevolent matrix of energy that this whole thing is made up of. It's an unconditional love. That's the operating parameters and the glue in the fabric of life. And when we experience more love, how can you possibly hurt or harm another being when love is all there is?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's wonderful. I really do agree with that, and that's my motto for life until I leave this planet in body form. So beautiful. Great, thank you so much for having on the show. Could you I was going to put your website as a call to action, but I don't know if there's anything else you'd like me to add for a call to action.
No, it's fine. I mean, just, if you're interested, I do a lot of writing. I've just got a new website. It's not finished yet. I've only just got a couple of pages up, but right now you can go and opt in, and I can send you something called the morning ritual, which is basically a protocol to do in the morning that keys you into actually activating natural law, getting your consciousness aligned, getting into the right stream so that you can be actually entering into your day. And overwhelmingly from very advanced initiates, I get, this is the best thing I've ever implemented in my life. It's changed my life. And so I give that as a gift. And so if you go to just to Christof.love, CHRISTOF.
Just my name. Yeah, great. That is amazing.
Just go there, and there's a free gift there, and then I do writings that talk about the big picture on the macro level and also on the micro level, and I get a lot of great feedback from my blog writings. And unfortunately my blog of my new website isn't up yet, but I deliver my articles to your inbox directly every week, and so you can you're keeping your awareness, some of the seeds of consciousness which are designed to percolate in your system to keep your consciousness evolving.
Amazing. So it's basically Christof.love. You prefer if I use this one before, because you have the other one, Christof Online, but we do.
Well, that one doesn't exist anymore. It shouldn't do. It should it should forward itself to Christof.love.
Okay, right. I will type in Christof.love when we finish this, and I'll put it into the Facebook thread as well. Okay, it's been really, really lovely to have you on the show, and I shall be following your blogs and your writing, and yeah, hopefully our paths can cross again at some point.
Love that. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much for being on the show, Christof. Take care.
My love.
Have a wonderful day, because we're going to bed here in the UK soon.
Yeah, we're about to start, so I'm going to get the kids rallied and ready for school and all of that.
Embrace your day now. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My love. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.